Everyone. My name is Dr. Jeremy Thornton. I'm joining you from Southwest Missouri. It's in the early evening here. For many of you, it's very late at night, and some of you, it's very early morning. But I'm excited that you're here with us, excited to share this triGLP conversation, and excited just to share a little bit about my personal experience in just a short period of time. I'm going to share a little bit about the product, the technology, why it's special, why we're excited about it, and why people are experiencing such amazing health benefits. I have been in the functional medicine space now, been in practice almost 28 years. In May, will be 28 years in the functional medicine space. So I'm a chiropractic physician. I'm a clinical board certified clinical nutritionist, board certified internist. And we mostly work in my clinic with autoimmune disease, but we work with a lot of different chronic health issues. And honestly, back in December, when Tanya shared this with me, I wasn't terribly interested, honestly, not because I wasn't interested in the conversation, mostly because I didn't believe that a natural GLP was possible. Anybody else skeptical when they just heard about this or heard about something that was helping people to lose weight and get healthier? So I'm naturally skeptical. I'm always skeptical, especially about natural products, because we hear so many things, right? There's so much hype out there, which rarely does something live up to the hype, right? If that's what you've experienced, that's certainly what I've experienced.
Okay.
And so she shared this with me right before Christmas, and I said, "Hey, I'll take a look at it." So I ordered some drops. Um, Started on the drops, 5 drops twice a day, through Christmas, through New Year, and the next a week after, the January 7th, is my birthday. So needless to say, I wasn't eating great during this time frame. Anybody else guilty of that? Not eating the best through the holidays. So, I was hoping that maybe the drops at the very least maybe would help me from gaining as much weight as I usually gain over the holidays, which was a tall order just by itself. But wasn't expecting much. I really didn't believe that this would work because I've tried other natural so-called GLP or peptide formulas in an oral delivery system. And my thought process was that peptides don't survive the GI process. I didn't believe they survived the stomach acid to get at sufficient levels in the bloodstream to make much difference. That was my belief system, right? And so when I tried these products, I took them religiously over that time, and then I got on the scale, not expecting much, but I was shocked. Not only did I not gain weight, I had lost a couple of pounds during this time frame. So I don't recommend that trial. That's probably not going to work for everybody, but it was enough to get my attention to say, hey, there's something different here, right? That shouldn't have happened. And so I looked closer, right? I'm like, okay, send me more information. I wanted to look at the clinical studies. I wanted to look at the ingredients, and I was really pleasantly surprised by all of those things that I was seeing. Started utilizing them with my family, with a handful of patients. That's what we do first. We guinea pig ourselves, right, and our family, and started continuing to see benefits, and some that I wasn't expecting to see benefits with. And that continues. As if you're in our testimonial group, you'll see that. You're like, see benefits. You're like, I didn't know these drops could do that. I didn't know that this could help, this or that. And we're seeing some pretty neat stuff. And so um, what I'm probably most excited to see, just as a physician, I'll be honest with you, that's plaguing the world, really. Um, it's horrible here in America, is blood sugar disorders or insulin resistance, right? It's guesstimated, we don't know exactly, but it's guesstimated that probably 70% of Americans are insulin resistant. And so insulin resistance is what happens when we start to get blood sugar disorders very early on that eventually will develop if it progresses into pre-diabetes and eventually diabetes. But all of that starts, except type 1, right, which is an autoimmune disease. We won't talk about that right now. All starts as insulin resistance. The body starts to build up resistance to the insulin. It's not getting that message as efficiently. And so the blood sugar starts to creep up. The insulin starts to creep up. Insulin is very inflammatory. Insulin, I call it the hibernation hormone, wants to just store fat, right? If you even look at a calorie, it's going to store on your body when your insulin levels are up. And it's very frustrating with insulin resistance to try to reverse that on your own. It's very difficult with insulin resistance, especially to try to lose weight. Again, being the hibernation hormone wants to store everything. So we try to do right. We try to eat a little bit better. We try to get more active. We're told to move more, exercise, eat better, we'll lose weight. Well, guess what? Most people still don't lose weight. at least not very easily. And so, I don't know about you, but if I start any type of a health, health lifestyle change, diet change, I want to see some results. Anybody else? And if I don't see results in a reasonable amount of time, I'm probably going to quit, right? Because I don't have the patience. And so that's what a lot of people experience. And then they try, they fail, they quit. And that's a big deal when we're dealing with insulin resistance, which of course, blood sugar disorders, what drive almost every other chronic health condition you can think of, right? Especially things like the biggest killer, heart disease. Blood sugar disorders, especially diabetes, are a huge driver for heart disease, huge driver for cancer, huge driver for neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's, and all kinds of other cognitive challenges driven by the beginning, what begins as insulin resistance developing into worsening conditions like that. What I'm excited to share is I'm already seeing benefits in just a short amount of time that I've been using this personally with patients, starting to see reversal of insulin resistance. And what that looks like in the lab work is a reduction in fasting insulin. When insulin levels come down, blood sugar comes down, inflammation comes down. Finally, the body says, hey, I don't need to store this much fat anymore, right? So we start to see our bodies finally able to release some of that stored body fat. And I'm very excited about that because here in America, 1 in 8 are diabetic. Now, it's probably in some of the countries that are on here, probably not as bad as the US, but fairly close. And then in the US, 1 in 3 are pre-diabetic. And again, arguably 60 to 80% are probably insulin resistant, and most don't know that. And most physicians aren't measuring that, right? The fastest way to check that would be a fasting blood insulin. That insulin and triglycerides will start to elevate before blood sugar does. And so I'm getting on a tangent of blood sugar. I didn't mean to do that tonight, but I hope that's valuable information. I am going to share a little bit about why this is impacting, especially that, but other things, and share a little bit of the science around these bioactive salmon peptide drop. So we're talking about 3 pathways. You know, a lot of people, when they hear about the GLP conversation, they hear about GLP-1, which is by far the most used, most popular drug, right? Requiring one of these. And was created for the purpose of diabetes, was never designed for a weight loss drug, but here we are, right? And I'm excited that this, from a natural perspective, we're impacting this. We're not driving it, we're not forcing it with a synthetic injection. We are supporting that pathway. Okay, we're supporting the GLP-1 pathway. So first of all, GLP-1, GLP-2, GIP, they are not drugs. They are not supplements. Those are natural hormones, natural pathways, natural peptides already in our body. Okay, that's not this. What this is a way to force that pathway on high gear. Okay, we can kind of look at it like that, like putting the pedal to the metal, putting the foot down on the gas accelerator with the injectable synthetic peptide. And so the GLP-1, oftentimes called the appetite whisperer, it improves insulin secretion, it improves blood sugar levels, appetite and satiety. It's that one that curbs that food noise, that noise that tells you need to go and probably have a snack, or it's after dinner, you're not even hungry, but you're looking through the refrigerator, right? You're looking through the cupboards. I hope I'm not the only one that does that. This quiets that need that you just kind of finally feel like you have to eat something, or you feel like you have to finish all your kids' plates, right? After they haven't eaten all their food. Now you need to eat the rest of theirs, right? It really curbs the appetite. It curbs cravings, I find, especially for carbs and sugar. And so it's a lot easier to be good, right? It's a lot easier to make healthy choices, make better choices, if we're not craving all of that and our appetite is under control. And so I often like to point out that this is designed to support our body's physiology rather than override the physiology. And that's the GLP-1 pathway. And that's comparable to the one drug we talked about, right? But this not only influences that pathway gently, but it also influences 2 other important pathways called GLP-2 and GIP. So GLP-2 We call it the core shield. I also like to call it the gut repair crew. It helps to strengthen the intestinal barrier. It improves nutrient absorption of our vitamins and minerals. It gently slows the stomach and intestinal transit time. So if things are slowed down a little bit, then of course we're not as hungry as quickly. It repairs a condition they call leaky gut. I don't know if you've heard of leaky gut syndrome. Anybody heard of that? Which is where the gut cells, they kind of spread apart a little bit due to irritation, and then things that aren't supposed to get through the gut barrier into the bloodstream do. And that can cause some health issues, right? Can cause some food allergies, and toxicities and all kinds of other unfavorable things. The GLP-2 helps repair this part of the gut. And we're seeing a lot of that in people's experiences and what they're sharing with us. And also, we're seeing improved energy. Part of that's from improved nutrient uptake. We're seeing improved mood, I think, because, right, we've heard that the gut's the second brain. We know that the gut makes 90% of the body's serotonin. So if we have a healthier gut and a happier gut, we're going to be healthier and happier, right? Does that make sense? And then we have the GIP pathway. This optimizes insulin secretion. It supports blood sugar balance. I often call it the traffic director. So when we eat food, right, comes in as fuel, and then the body decides, are we going to store that fuel away, or are we going to use that fuel for energy, right? And a lot of times ours gets flipped to store instead of getting flipped the other direction to use that food, right? Use that incoming fuel for energy. And that improves, of course, the metabolism and helps us to burn calories and burn fat more efficiently. And so this technology that we're talking about, this triGLP technology, influences all of these pathways. And again, it supports rather than overrides these pathways. And so this is what we're talking about tonight. This amazing technology that is really changing the landscape and what we thought we knew about these GLP pathways and what's possible without an injection. So triple action synergy, effortless appetite control. We've talked about some of this gut healing for complete digestive wellness, metabolic balance, mind and body transformation, weight loss, 6 to 8% drop in BMI, up to a 10% drop in body fat within 8 weeks. That's what studies show. Blood sugar improvement, insulin improvement, energy improvement, reduced inflammation. This is one that kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting this much improvement in inflammation with this product, but we're seeing that, right? If you see that we have an amazing a group that has testimonials. Couldn't think of that hard word, right? Testimonials. We have a testimonial group where people are sharing what they're experiencing, and a lot of them are experiencing health benefits that have nothing to do with fat loss. And so that's super exciting. So we're seeing improved systemic inflammation. Of course, like we talked about, improved digestion. This science was 3 years in the making. No needles, pharmaceutical grade, direct to consumer, right? We don't need a prescription at a quarter of the price, generally, of these GLP type medications. And so we have clinical studies. I'm happy to share those with you in more detail. I'm so impressed that they call this Beyond Organic, and you can see all of the different certifications that this product has. Honestly, it's probably the cleanest product that I've ever used in nutritional practice. It is kosher certified, it's halal certified, it's non-GMO certified, it's GMP certified, and it's just beyond clean. And when we look at it, we're really talking about 4 ingredients. There's a little bit of water in here, right, to make it into a drop. There is the bioactive salmon peptides, over 500 individual peptides from salmon source, from the Norwegian salmon, as clean as possible. A little bit of ginger extract, a little bit of lemon peel extract. That's the ingredients, guys. There's no fillers, there's no carrier oils, there's no binders. There's those 4 simple ingredients. And this is a perfect time to have this conversation about a natural alternative, because the GLP conversation right now is huge and it's just getting bigger. In America, 10% are already using a GLP, and 30 to 35% are checking it out, right? They're interested. They want to try a GLP, but some of them are scared. Some of them are nervous. Some of them have heard about the side effects, and the side effects can be scary, right? The GLP-1 of the fat loss studies have shown up to 40% of that lost fat or lost weight, I should say, is not fat. It's what? It's muscle. Have you heard that? Up to 40% of that lost weight can be muscle. Well, guess what happens when we come off of those injections? Well, a lot of times people, unfortunately, aren't changing their lifestyle to healthier options, right? The injections are so strong that they're able to lose weight oftentimes without even changing anything, right? So what happens? They come off the injections. They're still on an unhealthy lifestyle. They gain that weight back, right? Generally in body fat. But do you think they're replacing that 40% that was muscle with more muscle? No, right? They're replacing that 40% with more fat. And so guess what? Metabolically, they're more unhealthy than when they started because they lost that muscle. And so it's a vicious cycle that people can get trapped in. And I'm exciting, not that it's not helpful, not that some people can't get results, not that this is not a tool that some people can use. I'm not against all GLPs, right? In prescription. What I'm saying is I would rather start with a healthy, symptom-free, side effect-free, natural alternative, right? And so up to 32% that start a GLP injectable will be not using it within a year, either due to cost or due to side effects. But just to tell you how popular this conversation is, that 3 to 5 million internet searches in the US alone every month on GLPs. People are searching for this and they want a safer alternative. GLP drugs in the US, 48 billion in 2024, 52 billion in 2025, expected to be 121 billion market by 2034. And we have 100% natural ingredients, non-GMO, organic, um, liquid sublingual underneath the tongue, 5 drops twice a day delivery system. And I'm super excited to see what we're seeing here with this technology and how it's impacting people's lives.